if the source is everything, the one, what can you offer it? It's a thought that's been going around in my head since I was reading something the other day. Um, this idea, this notion that uh, the source is everything. It literally is everything. The great divine, the one, and therefore I can't make an offering. You can't offer something, something when that something already is that something. So what's left? Welcome to the Saturday Grove. This is where I just amble and explore an idea in my head. I never know where it's going because I start with a seed thought and we'll see what happens. But this idea really interests me because it ties in with something else as well. And I don't know about you, but along my journey, um, I've, I've explored and been part of Wicca, shamanic practices, druidry, and all these different practices present gods and especially being here in Britain, I tend to have focused on the Celtic gods. But as my connection and my understanding of the divine has developed and grown, that doorway, that that house that holds the essence of the divine in that form starts to not be big enough. Is the only way I can describe it. Not, it's not wrong. There's nothing wrong with it, but it's like it's not a big enough house to house my growing experience of the divine along my path. And it's an interesting place to go to because there is a genuine sense of loss when you get to that point where the shell of the divine cracks and falls away, and the gods that you've been working with and connecting with suddenly don't feel enough. And at one point along the journey, this felt like a bad thing, and actually, I spent a period of time where it thrust me into a kind of place of almost not believing. It's like, well, this is just a construct that's trying to hold something, and it just fell away. It wasn't working. But it's okay. It's okay almost to kill our gods as we go along our path. So, some people will be cringing at that, but it's true. Your gods should set you free. They should liberate you. They should help you become. I think one of the big shifts for me was the fact that more and more along my path, I, I, I think what was falling away when I look back is that idea, and not the idea, it wasn't even an idea, it's a feeling, that sense of, and that's why I really enjoyed and still find a lot of inspiration in early Celtic Christian ideas. Is that okay? Let's go magic. Let's go circles. I'm casting a circle. I'm calling, invoking, evoking the gods. It puts them as something separate to me. Talking of gods, the gods of bacon sandwiches are just arriving. Thank you. Um, Told you, unscripted, unplanned breakfast. So you call them. There's always this sense that they're out there. And for me, it was that out there-ness that started falling apart. Because it's like, I mean, where I live, there's a pedestrian area there. And it's like, if I see a friend of mine, I can shout across that pedestrian area and call that person over to me, which very much instills this separateness. And as my paths folded, I've literally got to that point where there isn't a separateness. The divine is ever present. That's why stillness in your magical and spiritual practices is one of the greatest things you can enter into. One of the thoughts behind the early Hermetic paths, the path of Hermes, is that actually those meetings, those gatherings would start with a period of silence in which they connected into and just sat with the awareness of the divine. And I've read it somewhere, it was described as though the divine entering into the space, but I don't think that's what it is. I think you're sat in that space, and when you stop and allow the distractions of the outer world, it's not that the divine comes into that space. You open up to the fact that the divine has always been in that space. The presence is always there. The one is always there. It can't not be because it's everything. It's everything. Everything. So I think what's happened on that path is, for me, I say it's the outer concept of gods that I have to call no longer fits my own personal experience of the divine. Now, whether I can you can put it's the all, so you can put any name you want on it, really. Choose your gods. Um, but do those god concepts limit your experience of the divine? Because if they do, it's time to kind of shed that skin. It's probably a better way than what I put it before about killing our gods. Um, so yeah, so it's an amazing place, and I was looking at some books earlier on today that I read years ago. Some people, quick book recommendation. Um, if you're looking at the craft, anything by the Farrers, just get their Witch's Bible. You don't actually need another book on the craft after that. Literally, it's the only book you ever need. Um, Viv Crowley, Doreen Valiente, the originals. That's where you want to read. Um, anyway, I was reading it, and I was reading it, hints talking about a ritual and stuff. And there's a time I'd have been like, oh, I'll do this thing. But now it almost seems superfluous because why do I need to do ritual to call in gods when I am living constantly in the awareness of the presence of the divine? It becomes that's like I've shouted to my friend across the pedestrian area. They've come right next to me. They're stood right next to me, and I'm still shouting them. They're like, "Whoa, I'm here! Stop shouting, dude." Um, it doesn't make sense. Um, but then earlier on today, the bit that the bit that stuck in my mind that I was reading was okay, and I'd not thought of it before, and I love it when something enters into the inner world of your own personal reality, and you're suddenly like, ah, yeah, what if the divine is all? Like you do cake and wine in ritual, or offer incense, but the divine is all. Be like going to a bank and going, "Can I give you your money?" Which they've already got. You see what I mean? You put it in that level, it just doesn't quite compute. And yet we're like, oh, we've done it. We just smudge, we like incense, we like candles, thanking the gods. But if source, if the one is truly all things, one, we can't call our gods. The moment we're thinking of calling our gods, we've stepped into duality. The moment we're in duality, we're separated out. I'm picturing the top of the tree of life, you know, Kether at the top. Here we have duality, albeit at the highest levels. But if we're working on the great work, that awakening to the true reality of our unity with the divine, that's where you want to be focusing, up at the top. That's it. So we're going to be focusing. Um, Anything that takes you out of that is trickling you back, and there's this very great temptation of humanity to trickle back down into the material, to be here, because here is, oh well, we can see it, it's tangible, we can think we're in control of it. um, um, think being the word there. So if we're thinking we're in control of it, and it's comfort. Like last night, I went and watched a mate's band play. So I've forgotten a friend of mine has just joined them. I haven't seen him for 30 years. It was a wonderful experience, but it's a very earthy experience, and there's nothing wrong with that. And within that experience, especially, there's some beautiful moments like when everyone's dancing and singing, and it was great. And in those moments, we're in the awareness of the one, because there doesn't feel like there's a boundary between us. And there's a wonderful mix of people. There was um, old, young, some Thai girls came in. There were and just a really mixed gaggle of people you wouldn't expect to see all together, and yet they were just dancing and connected and one. And it's that unity, it's that oneness that we're all part of, that our magical and spiritual journey should lead us to. And whilst we have separate gods that we have to call to us, we're not into that place. Um, but then, yeah, back. I've got to digress. That happens on this. If you watch these regularly, you'll know that it isn't scripted. It does jump, and you're just getting that free flow of thought, um, which after last night is quite an impressive thing, certainly from this side, to have a free flow of thought. It's quite a late one. It's good fun. Uh, yeah. So what do you offer the divine source? Call it God, call it goddess, call it whatever you want. Although the moment you call it something, it's not that. I know that's quite Taoist, but it's also very true. Um, if the title you give the divine limits the divine, you are no longer talking about the divine. Um, if something is all, if you cannot offer something that it already is, what do we offer? What do you offer? And for all the rituals, for all the offerings. Remember, we used to run retreats and go down to the field the week before and make an offering of a bottle of wine or a bottle of mead for good weather, and a blessing of healthy time shared at the retreats. What's going on there? What are we really offering? In the Celtic mystical, early Celtic Christian mystical practices, there's very much that being alone with God, living in the awareness of the presence of God. Um, and I know the kind of more pagan listeners to this will be like, oh, he's talking about God and Christians. That's something we all need to get over. Wisdom and truth lies in every path. And when you get over the barriers you're putting in front of it, you start to see that magic is everywhere. And what we're offering, and all that we have to offer, and all that we're asked to offer, is our awareness. It is our awareness to stop. And I was asked the other day, if I was on Lindisfarne watching a gorgeous sunset, what offering would I make? And just something inside me said, you know what? I would nod my head, smile, and just say thank you. My offering, our offerings, should be our awareness and our gratitude for being a part of all that this is. We are the imaginings of the divine. And as those imaginings, that offering, that gift we bring, should be that awareness. But we live in a world where there's things like rock and mobile phones and TVs and computers and cameras and microphones and books surrounded by the bumming things, and they all distract us. The material world is designed to take us away from that awareness. I don't want to go conspiracy theory, but people in power and influence also have a vested interest in us being tied into that which distracts us. You start living in awareness of the presence of the one, life becomes magical. There's never a moment. There's never a moment when you are not connected to all that is. You. I think I did. I talked about this a bit back. I lose track because I'm free rambling. Um, I was in the context of nature. How people say I've got to get back to nature. I've got to reconnect. You are nature. You can't not be connected to nature. You are nature. You might want to be nature in a different environment, but you are nature. You can't connect to the thing you're already connected to because you're already connected to it. And it goes the same for the divine, for the source, for the one. We're not called to do great fancy rituals and summon gods. We're called to step into that awareness. Even within Druidry, um, I can't remember off the top of my head because, again, no notes. Um, if I was organised, I'd have written this down and be reading it off a cue, but I'm not. Um, I don't like doing it that way. And this will be a one take. This is what you get. We know very little about the actual real druids. What thing we do know is that they had one overall one god. You had your regional spirits, your regional deities, of which your likes of Cernunnos possibly were one, but actually, we don't really know. Um, but we do know from one account written at the time that they had an overarching god, a one god, the top boss god, um, who the writer refers to as Dispater, which obviously is Latin for the father. So the idea of this kind of wonderful goddess loving Celtic peoples, their main overall arching god, top boss, was a father figure god. Um, but even there, you have this idea that there is the one, and then you've got you've got your other gods that you can connect in with. You've got um, but we're not separate. We're not separate. You're not separate. I'm not separate. Um, Depending how if you do Reiki, and I avoided it for years. I did my first Reiki attunement thing years ago, and then I avoided it um, until someone turned around to me and said, "Rob, I think there's something here in it that not the healing, but there's something more there for you to find out." And when you start looking and going into that properly, Reiki doesn't work properly whilst you think that you're healing somebody out there. We're all one. We're all one. The moment you step into a duality, the moment you're kind of sending, you hear it so many times, I'm sending this person energy. What's to send? So Reiki healing, in its essence, you bring that energy into you and you bring into your awareness the other person, not as separate, just holding them in your mind. Because if you're holding them in your mind, they're there with you. And because we're all one, when that energy is flowing and working through you, it's working through them too. You're not sending anything. Healing, and by true healing, we're talking about uh, realization of the true self, uh, which is in unity with the oneness. Um, True healing happens when we step into that awareness. We grow and become more than we ever thought we can be when we step into that awareness. The one does not want your incense, it doesn't want your candles from IKEA. The one wants you to live your life in the awareness of the presence of the one, of the source. And that's not that you need connecting, you're already connected. Just need to stop long enough to allow yourself to begin to experience that. And when you do that, I wonder just how much more you begin to notice it in the everyday. Because the spiritual life isn't an escape, the magical life isn't an escape you do at the weekends to kind of get away from the boring, mundane job. The true challenge of the spiritual magical path is to carry on with the mundane, boring job, but see the magical and the spiritual within it. It's not to live this separateness, it's to unite the two, the source within the material within the source. So, yeah, that's my thoughts. Thank you for following this if you're still with me. Um, Saturday Grove, although I'm going to be honest, I think I said at the beginning, this is Sunday I'm doing this. I missed yesterday, sorry, but this will be up for you. Do subscribe to the channel, do follow, do comment, drop your thoughts, drop your feelings. It's always great to hear from people. And if you've enjoyed it, tell people. Tell people you think will enjoy it. If you haven't, tell people that you think won't enjoy it. Either way, just share the love. Talking of which, much love, many blessings. I am rambling now. This has been the Saturday Grove. I'm Rob Chapman, and I will see you next week. Take care. Bye bye.